Hello, Dino here, and welcome to Dino headquarters in the UK. Not quite as interesting as where I was yesterday, which was in Croatia for the Weekend.18 festival. It is the 18th year it has been run. It is full of very interesting, busy, innovative thinkers, all come together for a great festival, talk about a lot of different subjects. And I was there too. It's in Ravine, which is an amazing part of West Croatia. Just bonkers. If you do want to go on holiday somewhere, I can thoroughly recommend it. It is amazing. However, I was there talking about the mind-blowing billboards from around the world. It was about 30 minutes, and this will be exactly the same presentation. If you weren't there, couldn't be there, then this is for you. Hopefully you get the same flavour. Now, first of all, who am I? I don't expect you to know who I am, quite frankly, but why have I got something interesting to say about billboards? My history is in museums way back at the beginning, using creativity and technology. I then worked for the BBC, making computer games for children, and I won one of these things, which is a BAFTA, which is usually for film stars and beautiful people, but I seem to have one, which is remarkable. I then worked for Disney for about 7 years. I was the head of creative technology for Europe. And also I then went to be a creative director in a marketing agency. We worked for Pixar and Xbox, that sort of thing. Then founded a startup within the music industry, and also went to work for a toy company using massively online player games for children. I also launched a movie there as well. Then went to work for advertising. And this was in the sort of innovation technology space as well. This is where I first found out-of-home advertising for the first time. Then I went on to help found and run the innovation lab over at Sky, which is part of the Comcast organization. And now I am a consultant helping all of these people do really interesting stuff, everything from AI to billboards to creativity. And that's how I ended up at Weekend.18. Hopefully that makes sense. Some more sort of industry leaning things. I am the creative in residence at the World Out of Home organization, which is a great honor, as is being the president of the Picasso d'Or Awards, which are the Middle Eastern Creative Awards for out of home. And as you know, I've got one of those things, which is, again, weird. Also weird are some of these things you might not know about me. If you Google child microchipping experts, chances are I'm one of the top few links there. If you do want to microchip your child, come and have a chat. I don't recommend it. I also spent a day in a cash machine trapped with Jenson Button, the world Formula One champion, and also very nice chap. And also, at the age of 50, I learned how to wheelie a mountain bike. So there you go, that's me wheeling a mountain bike. I don't want to go any further without saying a big thank you to Go To Digital, who invited me out, to actually made me aware of the Weekend.18 festival as well. But also, if you are inspired by anything you see in the next half an hour and thinking, oh, well, these billboards aren't for me in Croatia, well, Go To Digital have actually put all the investment already into the billboards. It's not very often I go to somewhere that already has the cameras, the sound, the touch screens, and all those sorts of things built in. So if you're inspired, you want to make any of these campaigns come to life for you in Croatia, Go To Digital have already made the investment. And quite jealous, not many countries have that, so don't waste the opportunity. However, I'm going to talk about 4 things today. I'm going to talk about digital first of all, which are digital billboards. Obviously, they move. Then I'm going to talk about classic, which you might not really know what that is. That is just old-fashioned billboards, paper and paste, as we call them, squares of paper. However, they can be really innovative and really exciting as well. Then specials, special bills, as they're called in the industry. These are maybe billboards that needed something else adding to them for them to work. And then I'm going to give you a glimpse into the future, just some ideas and some examples of where we might be going. If you're new to marketing or just need a refresher, just look out for 3 things as we look at these examples. Look for things that are targeting the right audience with the right message, that's ideally, but if you can get the third one at the right time, then in the middle of that is gold. So look out for those 3 things and look out for when all 3 of them happen at the same time. Within the out-of-home industry, you might think they're just squares and they're very, very dull, but they're not. There's a huge amount of tools that we can bring to this as well. We have different formats, we have different fonts, of course we do. You can put images on there, but you can bring your knowledge to it as well. There are different colors, you've got data, even live data, brands and logos, you've got copy, you've got motion and video, you've got connectivity and Wi-Fi, you've got location, you've got tech and sensors, you've got time and timing as well, you've got scheduling, you've got physicality, you've got a lot of things in between. So right now, probably I say one of the most creative sectors right now is out of home. If you want to win an award at Cannes or on a world stage, then out of home is a place where you will find all the tools to do that. So I thoroughly recommend it. It's a great place to be. Now, first one, as I mentioned, is going to be digital. These are screens that are digital, obviously, but they also can have moving images, etc. Now, what are the best things and the best examples of digital? This one is where I have to start. This is what I call the OG, the original gangster, the one that a lot of people in the industry will then shout at and say, this is the one that really started me thinking about innovation and digital and creativity. So this is called British Airways Look Up, and it is celebrating the beauty and the marvel of flight. Let's not forget how amazing flight is. So it uses a child. Now this is in the centre of London, and it's also on the flight path to Heathrow. So it uses the data to look up live planes coming from Heathrow or to Heathrow, and says this one here is actually from Barcelona. It triggers the ad to then get a child to then walk up and then point at the airplane as it goes over, and then says, look, it's BA 475 from Barcelona going to Heathrow Airport. You know, essentially we've got loads of destinations, isn't flying marvelous? So it used creativity and data in a really seamless way, and I say, this is the one that most people will look at. Now, not really many people saw this in reality, but lots of people saw the video, and that is a theme throughout a lot of these. It's not necessarily the billboard that people see, it's the social media that also gets the campaign out there as well. Now this goes to the complete other end of the spectrum. This is the latest amazing thing. So this is the Madison Square Garden Sphere in Las Vegas. Now if you're Netflix advertising Rebel Moon, how do you make it better? Well, you launch 400 drones as part of the creative campaign as well. Now again, this is probably more famous on social media than it is in reality. However, that's the point of this one. You just make it awesome. There is 15,000 square meters of spherical 16K billboard here. And with 400 extra drones, it just looks absolutely magical. But the drone pilot taking these pictures is probably just as much a benefit to you seeing it as actually the campaign itself. So, you know, it's all a bit of teamwork at this case, but taking it to the next level with drones is definitely where it's at. This is Pedigree. This is a dog brand. They're going to need dogs in their ads. Of course they are. But how do you make it work even harder? Each one of these dogs is available for adoption. So what they did is they created this system where they could take a very basic picture of a dog. They could then upscale it with AI to make it sort of essentially a photo shoot for the dog. They then could put it on a billboard advertising the product. There was a QR code next to the dog. If you wanted to adopt the dog, then you could do it directly through the advert. Now, they also took it one stage further than that. They only advertised the dogs for adoption in places that would actually be beneficial to the dog, or at least would be good for the dog. So big dogs next to parks, etc., etc. Now, as soon as one of the dogs got adopted, then that dog then fell off rotation of the media and another dog was added so they could be adopted as well. So it's making the billboards work extra hard, but also all of the technology behind this was invisible. And that's what I love about this one. It doesn't have to be obvious. Now this is a homegrown Croatian as well, so well done. This is Croatia Poliklinika, and Poliklinika are talking about, in this case, posture. I say, cameras in the screens, just stand in front of the screen, it will scan your posture. If it then sees anything that you might need to correct, it will give you some tips and tricks. 97% of people who saw this advert tried to correct their posture in front of the ad itself. And if it saw something that maybe that was a little bit extra, or you wanted to go and have a chat to a physiotherapist about it, you can then book an appointment directly through the screen as well. So this is changing real lives. A little bit like the dog adoption, can actually change lives. So well done. Yeah, and this one, by the way, was also the winner of the Best Digital at the World Out-of-Home Organisation in 2025. So Croatia is on the world stage. This is all the way over to New Zealand, and this is called The Colours of New Zealand. Again, this is an award winner, again on the world stage, and you could only really do this with out-of-home. So this one is The Colours of New Zealand by New Zealand, and it's for Dulux. They want to advertise their paint range. Now, if you wanted to make the colours of New Zealand, you put a camera on the back of the billboards, it then takes a picture of the sunset, and it finds the closest colours in that sunset of the Dulux range. So you can literally have the colours in your house that were inspired by New Zealand. You can't do this in any other medium. This cannot be done on a website. It can't be done in print, that's for sure. It can't be done on your mobile phone. It can only be done out in the public, out in the wild, which is the location of the billboard. So really love that one. It can only be done in out-of-home, which is great. Now this one is making out-of-home as a theatre. So this is in Tokyo. This is called Kyodai Nikko, which is basically giant cat. This isn't actually an advert. This is literally just almost like an animation show that happens every 5 minutes. Something else happens. The cat will animate and do something else. It'll chase a ball or something like that. This is called anamorphic 3D. So it's fake 3D. It looks like it's 3D, but only from this very exact angle. If you move slightly to one side, it will look a little bit weird. It won't really work. But tourists come and see this. So the billboard itself is the attraction. The adverts that happen in between is like a bonus, basically. So this is the holy grail for billboard operators, that their screens actually make people want to come and see them. But you can see why. This is absolutely amazing. Again, wins lots of awards. It's not technically an advert either, which I think is great. This is a great use of location. This is all the way over to Stockholm, and this is the Adidas billboard run, and it uses location as the exact creative idea. So you go up to one of the billboards, you scan the QR code with your phone, and then it gives you another billboard to run to. It starts a timer, and then you run all the way to the other billboard, you scan the QR code on that one, and it stops the timer, and therefore can put you on a leaderboard of times. So you're literally using the location of the billboards as the creative idea for Adidas about running through Stockholm. So it's a perfectly crafted idea from start to finish. I really love that one. Now, location is also can be exact as well, and in this case it has to be. So this is Uber Eats, again an award winner. This is called Iftar incoming. Now Iftar, if you're observing the holy month of Ramadan, you can't eat during the daylight hours, and come the evening, when you can eat is when the sun goes down. So it's very important that you know when the sun is going down, but it changes. As you can see from the animation, I'm sorry if you're a flat earther, but you know, on a globe, it's the actual sun changes as it goes across from east to west. So in this case, the location of the billboard was precisely targeted, and the time that the sun goes down in that time and that location was put on the billboard. So Uber Eats would look nothing more than to deliver your first meal after Iftar. So this is why it's called Iftar incoming. Every single location had a different time on it, which was serving as both sort of public information, but also an advert for Uber Eats as well. Great. And again, an award winner as well. This is Itaú Unibanco, and this is in Brazil, and they use the hoardings around a football game to great effect. So they upgraded the billboards behind the goal itself. Now, normally if you miss a goal, it's not particularly interesting. They turned it into a feature. So they have, by the way, an online shop. So they took some of the most popular products in their online shop. If anybody missed a goal and it hit one of the icons on their billboard, it instantly gave you a discount code for that product itself. So anybody could then order it live from the shop during the game. And did it actually work? Well, yes, it did. It actually increased sales by 362 or nearly 363,000 euros in a single hour. So not only was it fun, but it was also really effective as well. Again, pedigree, obviously doing something very right with innovation. This is from Croatia, this is in Zagreb, and again, it's using screens with things built into them already. Now, if you remember that Venn diagram, you're talking about how do you target the right people with the right message at the right time. If you've got dentist sticks for dogs, how do you target dog owners? What you do is you use the cameras to use an AI algorithm to look for dogs. Not only dogs, you look for medium dogs, small dogs, and large dogs. And therefore you can target the advert directly only to dog owners, which is really, really smart. So in the industry, this is called hyper targeting. Do not waste your ad spend by showing your ad to the wrong people. This is how you find the dog owners. You find dogs and you use an algorithm to do that, which is super, super smart. Again, customized ads as well. So again, well done for this one in Croatia, homegrown, great talent as well. Now, it doesn't have to be the content, it can actually be the billboard itself. And again, as we've seen from Tokyo example, it can actually be the billboard that's the attraction itself. This is in Times Square in America. This is actually now 7 years old, but it's still attracting the crowds. This is only for Coca-Cola. You cannot put your own ad on here, but as you can see, this is a kinetic or electrokinetic billboard. It moves in and out, and it also is relevant to what the actual creative is as well, so it can be part of the creative. It's a 3D physical billboard. So people come and see this. This is constantly animating, and it's just a marvel of technology as much as endeavor. Now, it doesn't have to move. This is in the UK, which is kind of ironic because of this one. It's all about essentially the sun, and the British Skin Foundation saying, please wear sunscreen when it's sunny. So what they've done here is they've looked up the sun strength, the UV index as it's called, in this location. And all they do is they then just make the billboard burn, like sunburn. So the longer it's left in the sun, the more sunburn it gets. Now, if you walk past this billboard at any point, it's a really powerful message. If you also watch it in fast forward, it's an even more powerful message as well. So a super simple idea, making data really, really important. But that sort of weather data doesn't have to be that sort of, let's say, serious. This is Bond's boys, and Bond's boys are testicles. They make, so Bonds make underwear in Australia. So what they did is they used the weather. Now, if it's really warm weather, then the boys are kind of maybe at the bottom of the advert. This doesn't loop, by the way, but if they're maybe windy, then they're swinging about in the middle. And if it's quite a cold day, then they're right up at the top. So they've used weather and they've used their data to make data fun with the creative as well. Now we move on to classic, which are paper and paste, and you say, well, how can these be innovative? Well, I'll show you how they can be. Well, first of all is McDonald's, and they use this thing called follow the arches. They figured out that if you use the McDonald's logo, you can actually use it as wayfinding, as signage to where the McDonald's actually is. So again, location is one of the benefits of out of home. So you put these next to the road and they can tell you whether it's the next left, you need to go off the junction, whether you need to turn right, maybe you need to turn left, or maybe you need to turn around for the McDonald's. You can get all of that out of just the logo. So it's a beautifully simple idea that uses the brand, and if you can use the brand, that's possibly one of the most powerful things you can ever do in an advert, which is remarkable. So that's won a huge amount of awards. Now this one is the unmentionables. Now this is Unilever. If we talked about brands, this is now about brands in partnership. During the day, we have lots of brands who have their normal adverts for things like beds and clothes and underwear. But at night, what happens is basically a UV light just turns on. It shows you where the stains might be. And this is where then Unilever and their Cleanopedia, they want to show you where the stains are and how to remove them. So it's a really brave example how if brands get together, then something can happen that is better than the sum of their parts. So really love that one, just using a simple light that switches on. And this is also really clever. This is what's called lenticular. So this is just a print advert. There's no electronics in this whatsoever, but it's very similar to when you were a child and you maybe had a piece of stationery or a ruler in your pencil case, that maybe as you moved it, then there would be an animation or a dinosaur would move. This uses exactly the same. That's called lenticular. So for Sky, for Midwich Cuckoos, which is a sort of a series about these creepy kids in the woods that disappear and they're all very mysterious, that's exactly what this technology, which is very simple, allowed you to do on this billboard at the side of the bus. So it made you think you were seeing things, but they weren't actually there, which is exactly the point of Midwich Cuckoos. So it's the perfect use of the technology, although it was just print, but it was beautifully simple. Now this is all the way over to Fresno in California, and this is for Miracle Reality, so sort of people who sort of deal with house and property. Now they have this billboard just outside Fresno. If you go there on Google Street, you will see their billboard. That's fine. They always have that billboard. So what happens when there were roadworks next to it? And then unfortunately they put this sign in front of it, which is like, do not pass, do not overtake on this lane, right in front of their billboard, where they worked with it and they made a creative benefit from it as well. So do not pass on a miracle. Miracle Reality. So, this is all about being flexible, being creative, and seizing the moment when the gods of the roadworks give you an opportunity, but always be thinking creative. How can you make it better? This is for links or axe, whatever it's called in your location, but this is for their, let's call it lower body spray, and they made a scratch and sniff poster. So this allows you to do a product demo in a print poster. Now obviously they've made it a little bit more fun by the fact that you have to scratch in the middle bit, that should we call it, but it allows you to scratch and sniff what the product smells like directly in a poster. There's a few examples of this out there as well, but this is a really good fun one as well. So scratch and sniff posters are a thing. This is a campaign. This is called Should Have Gone to Specsavers, and this is sort of worldwide as well. But this is a campaign that any marketer wished they'd have come up with. It's such a strong campaign. Almost anything that you do with this thing just tends to win awards because it's so brilliant. It's called Should Have Gone to Specsavers is their caption, which basically means mistakes happen if you have bad eyesight. You should have gone to Specsavers and got some new spectacles. So on the left-hand side, it's super simple. Whoever put up that billboard should have gone to Specsavers because they put it the wrong way. It takes you a little while to figure it out. And likewise, at Sydney Airport, they put up banners that said, "Welcome to Melbourne." Now, what they're doing here, they're using a very good behavioral trick. If you have to think about the advert a little bit to decipher it, to work out the puzzle, you actually embed it deeper in your mind, and it actually has a more powerful effect about the brand than a normal advert that you might just walk past. So really, really brilliant campaigns as well. And these are the specials, so these have had something added to them to make them work. This is probably the best one you'll see. This is Dracula for BBC in the UK. At night, Dracula comes out. During the day, they're just stakes driven into a billboard, but at night the light comes on and Dracula comes out. It's as simple as that. This is a brilliant use of craft, so people actually using their creativity to make a billboard. And this is called the guarded bus stop. So this is in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and it's unfortunate, but people do not feel safe at night, especially women waiting for buses. So the guarded bus stop says, look, if you need company until your bus arrives, just touch the screen. And when you do that, it connects a video call to somebody who will basically sit there with you, have a chat to you, and watch out through a camera just to make sure you're safe. And they've even spotted people having medical emergencies at the bus stop and calling the ambulance and things like that. But essentially what it'll do is it'll just sit there, keep you company, and if anything happens, they're on hand for you as well until your bus arrives. This has been spread across the city, so it's not just one location. It's not just essentially for the PR and one campaign. It's actually something that's actually making a real difference to people's lives in Sao Paulo. This is showing you just how powerful those billboards can be. This is Sky Ocean Rescue and about ocean plastic. And it's about discovering the ocean's biggest threat. So it looks like a big gnarly fish, something that is dangerous. But what you do is you connect your phone to the billboard using the Wi-Fi, and then your phone becomes a virtual torch. And as you move your phone about, you can then explore what you thought was a fish, and it turns out to be plastic floating in the ocean, which is of course one of the ocean's biggest threats. So it just shows you what's available in terms of power in these billboards. Not only is it connecting your phone and using an accelerometer, but it's 3D rendering all of that scene real and live. So think of them as a laptop with a HTML page in them, and all of a sudden a lot of creative possibilities in billboards start to open up in front of you. It doesn't even have to be that complicated. This is one of the most simple special builds you can get. So this is O2, this is in the UK, and O2, a mobile operator, will then say, if you break your phone, we'll replace them for you. So don't worry about the cracked screen. So all they've asked here is for a special build to the billboard operators. Can you take the billboards off them and look like they're broken? That's all they've done, and it's brilliant. Won a huge amount of awards just because of such a simple idea. And it's the physical message that is carried through onto the screen as well. So that's a very simple special build. This is the first billboard I really got involved in that actually had all of that all into one with the technology and the creative. This is for Women's Aid, and it's a very serious subject. It's about domestic violence. And just like domestic violence, if you just walk past it and just try to ignore it, nothing will change. Likewise, a billboard. So if you walk past a billboard and do not engage with it, nothing will happen. So in this case, there was a woman with bruises on, and if you stopped and looked at the billboard, it would register your gaze, and then it would then remove the bruises from the woman. So the more people that looked and engaged in domestic violence, the more that happened. And donations were made to the billboard, and it also hit the world's PR world, should we say. It was actually launched on International Women's Day, and that was part of the campaign. So as I said right at the beginning, it's the right time as well. So getting the right time for your campaign is super, super important. Hit all the news, which made it an award winner as well. This is Taj Mahal tea. This is going all the way over to India, and this is celebrating the coming of the monsoon with the Mek Sandor, which is a big musical instrument. It fills up with water. It plays a random symphony that is essentially a celebration to the rain that brings the flavor to the tea for Taj Mahal. So again, an award winner. I think it's also a Guinness Book of Records winner as well. So it's a brilliant campaign. Now, some say this is actually just an installation. Is it a billboard? Well, yes, it is a billboard. But also, what a brilliant special build, probably the most special of special builds. And this is a really good example of using the screen size itself as the idea. Now, sadly, each one of these screens is the same size as you are legally allowed to keep a killer whale in captivity, which is obviously outrageous. So in this campaign, you then texted each one of the screens with your name to release a whale. It would leave a donation to the Born Free Foundation, and then for the rest of the day your whale would then swim freely throughout all the rest of the billboards in the area, saying thank you very much, I was donated to by your name, and then it would then say thank you very much. So you were literally releasing the whales onto all of the other screens from captivity in these billboards. So there you go. Now we move on to the final one, just a few examples of what the future might hold for out of home. This is Dream Park. This is in a few cities in the UK, and it shows you what might happen when the billboards start to spill out into the street using augmented reality. Now you can see this on your phone, or you can also, like the people on the right hand side, use your VR headset, for instance. But what happens when billboards can also be physical? In this case, you can interact with them as well, and they spill out onto the street. Kind of interesting. And what happens if they're stretchy as well? So this is by LG, and this screen can be stretched 100,000 or 10,000 times and up to 50% as well. So it's very stretchy. In the top corner, you can see it being laid over an interface. This is for a car, showing you how it can also be used to change interactive surfaces. So imagine if a tree all of a sudden was an interactive surface, and what could you do with that? And what sort of shapes would you wrap this around? I think it's quite interesting. BMW, for instance, have put screens on cars. So this is a little bit like the Kindle, that sort of the colors that you get. So it's flat, so it does not actually glow in the dark. This is actually just a color paint that actually changes. So if you then go to your work in the morning, you maybe want a white car, maybe you want to come home in a blue car, that's fine. But you can also put adverts on these. If there are cameras in these cars, then they can see who's looking at your car, and maybe you can get a little advertising kickback for actually having adverts on your car billboard during the day. This is volumetric. Volumetric displays are 3D displays that can show three-dimensional images as you walk around it. Now, as you can see, the thing here is about you're touching into the 3D display. So how's that working? Normally 3D displays are either solid glass, or they use a fan, for instance, that whizzes around and you project onto the fan. Well, in this case, they use vibrating rubber bands, which you can put your finger into, which means you can interact with a volumetric display. If you look into the future, then you're probably looking at patents, and if you have anybody that ever sees an Apple patent, then you pay attention. So this is one of those. This is a light bulb which has projectors in it, 360-degree projectors, so any room can become an experience. Maybe it become a billboard, who knows? But if all of our house, we don't need wallpaper anymore, for instance, because all of a sudden we can project new images onto every wall that we own. This is probably 2 years old now. This is Project Primrose from Adobe, the people who make Photoshop, and this is their demo of an interactive garment. So in this case, it's a dress, and each one of these 1,182 scales can be individually addressed to change the pattern on the dress, but also they can be interactive as well. So as you move, they can move around as well. But likewise, take this one step further, an interactive fabric, or at least a visual fabric. If you're an influencer, you're walking through a town, you have basically adverts on your clothing or your bag or your shoes or your hat. Likewise in sport, for instance, if somebody is offside and their shoes change for a different color to indicate that they've broken a rule, that could be quite interesting. But you know, imagine earning money as you walk around town because of the adverts that you have on your clothing. And finally, we have these really interesting contact lenses that allow you to see in the dark. So they use basically near infrared nanoparticles, so particles embedded in the contact lenses themselves that glow when they see heat. Now that allows you to see in the dark, but it also, using visual light from the daylight, gets in the way. So if you close your eyes, infrared can still get through your eyelids. So therefore you can see better in the dark if you shut out the visual eyelids or the visual light. So you close your eyelids, which basically means you can see in the dark with your eyes closed, or you can have images projected into your eyes with your eyes closed. So imagine a future, for instance, where just as you're nodding off to sleep, you can have images projected into your eyes, maybe to steer your dreams and maybe to give you therapy as you drop off to sleep. So there you go. So seeing images in your eyes using contact lenses with your eyes closed. What a future. There you go. If you like this sort of stuff, then I do a video, I try and do one every week on a Monday morning. It's called the Dino Saw, so what Dino saw. There's a QR code for that one on YouTube, just on the left-hand side. If you want to contact me, if you'd like a copy of this presentation as a PDF, then just send me an email, I'll send it to you in return. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this. What a fantastic time it was at Weekend 18 in Croatia. Other than that, hopefully it's enjoyable, and I'll see you soon.